Hey everyone, I'm Clayfect, and today we are going back into the world of the unseen creatures by Richard Barlow. A fascinating read. Now, have you ever tried to have a pair of socks, but for some reason or another you can never find one of the socks? Well, it seems that Richard Barlow actually has an explanation for that, and that is the creature called the Sock Snatcher. A very weird and interesting looking creature, I must say. And of course, I just have to make it. It's going to be great. I'm going to sculpt this little fella, all while we hear some of Barlow's notes about this unseen creature. If you want to, feel free to pause and look a little bit more on these pages. But for me, without further ado guys, I think we should get started. Now, it looks like with this little unseen creature that we are going to play around with 6 legs. So here in the amateur phase, I have to say right now it does just look like a creepy silver spider. And we don't want creepy, so we have to take that into consideration when we are making our little Sock Snatcher. Being careful, always go for the more cute and the less creepy version, simply because of the legs. Thankfully, we got some of Richard Barlow's sketches and notes to go on. Speaking of the Unseen Creature Journal, why don't we hear a little bit more about this creature while I put some clay on our little friend and started giving him a face.
Back in 1920, I was only a wee lad at the age of 6 when I discovered my first unseen creature. That happened to be the Sock Snatcher. To my mother's displeasure, one of my socks always seems to go missing on its travels from my floor to my laundry basket. When that happened, I always got a good scolding. In my mother's eyes, it was always a clear, simple case of laziness on my part, since she always could retrieve the other sock from under my bed, but that was far from the truth.
A sock or 2 or 5, 10 socks that goes missing in my household is a common thing, and I always blamed it on the dogs and Mr. Clayfect. But after hearing Richard Barlow's notes, I'm starting wondering, maybe I have a sock snatcher or a colony of sock snatchers under my bed. Who knows? I have to go check, though not right now. Right now, we are going to build up the little snatcher's face. So after we have cut out the mouth, so to speak, we are going to bulk out the face and give it some shape, in hope of the creepiness factor will be less prominent afterwards. Cause right now it looks like it has been taken out of a horror game like Puppy's Playhouse or something like that. It is really creepy. And I don't know if I managed to chase the creepiness completely away, but I think I got it to a point where we can say is creepy cute. Not to be too critical of my own work, but it took a very long time for this little guy to get out of the ugly face. Even when the cheeks were on, it still really needed work. I shaped the cheeks to the mouth even before I put them on, simply to make my life a little bit easier. Speaking of an easy life, or the lack thereof, I actually had a pretty interesting talk with Mr. Clayfect. Remembered how he didn't want to talk about his great-great-grandfather or the journal or anything of that kind? Well, I just couldn't leave it like that. So I kept asking him, and maybe I biggered a little bit too much because he finally snapped and said that he didn't want to talk about it and that would be the end of it. So the conversation in itself wasn't interesting, but his reaction definitely was. So of course I have to dig around some more, but I am not an investigator, so I could really use your guys' help. On one hand, I could start looking for a paper trail of this Richard Barlow or any Barlow in Denmark really. It might be a boring route, but a more safe one than the other one I'm going to suggest to you. And that is to somehow concoct a plan on how I can get Mr. Clayfect to talk, because he definitely knows more than he lets on. So what do you think? What should I do? Paper trail or Mr. Clayfect again? Please leave it down in the comment below and help me out, guys, because I don't know what to do. Also, while you're there, why not liking this video and maybe even subscribe to my channel if you like my videos. Now, with all that being said, let's get back to the sculpture where I'm giving our little snatcher some pitter-patter feet. Judging by the sketches and Barlow's notes, I want the feet to be as fabric-like as possible. So while I do that and give the face some final details, why don't we hear a little bit more from Barlow?
In an attempt to solve this mystery, I took it upon myself to explore under my bed, and there I found the Sock Snatcher. Timid at first, it curled up in the furthest corner of my bed, completely disguising itself as a pile of rags. With the ability to fold around itself and the many patterns at its disposal, the Sock Snatcher can disguise itself as any piece of clothing. Needless to say, I was fascinated, though it took me many trips under my bed and one brand new colorful sock before I got the Sock Snatcher's trust enough to interact with it. But when I did, I quickly realized that the Sock Snatcher were more playful and goofy in nature than scared. I tried to talk and even show my parents this incredible being, but to no avail. When they came to look, the happy little guy was gone, and my parents just thought my childish imagination had got the better of me.
So, by Barlow's description, it looks like we are going to have a texture and painting nightmare on our hands, guys. But you know, I'm always up for the challenge. Even though I might complain a bit too much at times. Sorry for that. So, anyway, what I did was I went on a hunt for fabric and tried to find any kind of fabric with an interesting texture. And then I cut a barely noticeable piece out of that interesting texture and used that. Now, I don't know why, but Mr. Clayfect wasn't happy with me when he saw what I had done. But, you know, we gotta suffer for the art sometimes. So with my fabric treasure texture in hand, I could finally start working on giving our little guy all the patches. This was actually a very fun part of the sculpture, because I had to be very careful when I brought in the patches on the Sock Snatcher, and then again had to be very sporadic when I pressed in the texture. I used clay softener some places, other places I didn't. Then I rolled with a ball stylist, all to give this sense of mismatch of patches. When a patch finally was textured, I took a tiny little snake of clay and began to press and poke it into the snatcher, sewing it, so to speak, in clay. Now, I am definitely not a big fan of sewing. Everything always seemed to fall apart when I try to sew in real life. It always Mr. Clayfect that sews in my family, actually. So it was the most trivial of all the tasks, but I took it patch by patch, and I just am very, very happy how it turned out. But while I patch him up, so to speak, and give him his little sock-like tail, why don't we hear a little bit more from Mr. Barlow?
I never got to see my strange six-legged friend again, but I did, however, get the opportunity later in life to bond with other Sock Snatchers. My newest friend is called Leopold. My friendship with these funny and easygoing creatures allow me an in-depth study of the Sock Snatchers. The Sock Snatcher's level of variation is extraordinary, not only when it comes to size, that can be between 1 to 4 pounds, but also in color and pattern. In other words, no Sock Snatcher looked the same. Besides its unique camouflage ability and its rather weird appearance, there is not anything particularly impressive about the Snatchers. Contrary to what the name might suggest, the Sock Snatchers does not snatch the socks to destroy them or devour them. No, it uses it for bedding in its nest. Why socks? And why only one in a pair? It's still a mystery to me. However, I have noticed that the male Snatchers prefer the white socks, and the female tends to take a liking to the left one. Again, it riddles me why.
Now with the Sock Snatcher baked and looking cute as ever, it's time to burn him! Now, don't burn your sculptures at home, guys. It is not a smart thing to do, but with me using all that type of fabric and also that I have dogs, it is a necessary evil to get rid of some of the hairs. And when I finally touched the little guy enough, it's time for the painting. And I will try my very best not to complain, but I have to say it's impossible, guys, because if you have followed me for a while, then you know I'm not a big fan of painting. And this sculpture took 3 days to paint. 3. At the end of it, I was going mad. I mean, right now, the footage you're seeing, then I'm just giving it some shading, so it's fine. I am naive and positive. Look at how easy and calm my hands are moving. I have no idea on the hell I have bestowed upon myself. Because every patch, of course, needs some color. And most of the colors, they need a pattern. And there were so many colors. There were so many patterns. I don't know what to say, guys. It was a tough one. I just went patch to patch and hoped for the best and hoped it looked decent while giving it some pattern. I tried to think of every creative way that I could paint, and I even went in and looked through our drawers just to get some sort of inspiration on all these patches. Just to dial it down a little and make the whole sculpture come together, even though I was playing around with so many colors. I blended a little bit of gray in all of the colors just to tone them a little bit down. That was actually Mr. Clayfect's idea, and it was a very good idea. Just to make sure that our little Sock Snatcher wouldn't be a clown snatcher, you can say. This was the most painful and time-consuming painting project I have ever done, I have to say. And remember, I have speeded this up for you and cut it down for you, so it is sort of manageable. If you want to see how long it really took me to paint all of it, here we have it in real time, guys. Yeah, just me being a painful perfectionist painting flowers. But instead of hearing me complaining about how my mental health is literally drowning in a paint can, why don't we hear the last of what Richard Barlow has to say about the Sock Snatcher?
The common man would at first glance probably find the Sock Snatcher to be an inconvenience with its sock stealing ways. But since their main food source is dust bunnies, they are vital for our ecosystem, because without the Sock Snatchers, the dust bunnies would surely take over with their already high population. A personal observation is that the Sock Snatcher is one of the most pleasant smelling creatures I have encountered. My theory is that they are often washed by mistake with the laundry. In my opinion, the Sock Snatcher is a treasure with its happy personality and should be valued as such, though I would highly doubt that would be the case if it were to be a commonly known creature.
Okay, I will try to stop complaining. I will ignore the patterns and all the many colors that still dances before my eyes, let me tell ya. And just say that when I was done with all the patches, all I had to do was go in with a little fine stick to sort of clean up the seams and paint all the flat. I painted every flat meticulously, but when that was finally done, and thank you for sticking by me if you're still here throughout all this painting ordeal. Now I gave the sock so many different kind of washes before I went on and repainted it, and it was simply to give it a more realistic look and give it some more dimension. But with the sock finally done, all we had to do was clean up the little guy's eyes. And I think that is it for this sculpture and it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and sticking by me throughout this whole painting drama thing. I hope I stayed true to Mr. Barlow's notes here. I am very happy with our little six-legged friend, the Sock Snatcher. And may I just say, saying Sock Snatcher so many times, if English isn't your first language, it is a challenge in itself. Actually, I think you should try it. Even if English is your first language, try to say it 5 times. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Did you do it? Oh, jokes aside, guys. It is time for me to sign off. I hope to see you next time. But if you can wait until next time, why not click on the square to the right, where you're going to see a cute little mood eater get made, where there's a lot less painting drama and a lot more tale. But until then, guys, bye!